Good morning. That's a quick thought. I'm gonna try to get this in within 7 minutes. We got Thanksgiving coming up. It's a harvest feast for the world. The day to reflect and give thanks to God, to the world. You're meeting with your family, eating, feasting, sometimes partying, drinking, watching football, watching movies, just enjoying yourself, right? And at the same time, in your mind, giving thanks to God. So it's the gratitude piece. Gracious. What could be wrong with gratitude towards God, right? What's wrong with giving thanks for the blessings throughout the year? And I guess someone might say, like the Bible might say, what's wrong with gratitude? Okay. And what's wrong with obedience? What's wrong with being gracious by being obedient? Kind of like with a child. If a child is saying thank you for getting a present or for getting a birthday party, but not cleaning their room, doing their chores, doing their homework, they're breaking the rules, they're drawing on the walls, kicking their feet up, and doing things when they want to do them. For one, why does that kid deserve that party, that blessing, that party? And two, wouldn't it just make more sense for the kid to be obedient because that's what you want, that's what you're wanting for? I mean, that's what you really desire. You don't want the thanks, you want the obedient kid, right? You want the kid who's raised right and who's going to do well for himself when they get older, right? The same thing with God. He would rather we be obedient, right? So let's just look at something right quick. This won't be long. I'm going to go to Romans 10:2. I just want to read it so you don't think anything is being made up. So you need to hear it, right? From God, not from me. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. Verse 3, for they being ignorant of God's righteousness, what he thinks is right, and going about to establish their own righteousness, doing what you think is right morally, have not submitted themselves into the righteousness of God, right? So you're doing things enthusiastically for God. I love you, God. I'm giving thanks to you, God. Thank you for these blessings. I'm highly favored. I got this BMW, or I got a roof over my head. I got this feast in front of me. I got my family around me. We're kicking back, watching football, playing cards, playing dominoes, playing spades. Great time. Thank you, God. On this Thanksgiving day. But what God said is, there's a way of righteousness, right? And so think about Thanksgiving. We're just going to put this in the context of this verse. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. Right? Let's say that's Thanksgiving. For they being ignorant of God's righteousness. What is God's righteousness? What would be the opposite of Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving is a feast day. It's a harvest day. It's a day of thanks. So let's go to Leviticus 23 and see how God might want us to do that. Let's look at Leviticus 23, 1 and 2 first. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord. These are the feast of God, not the feasts that were raised with in tradition, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Convocation is a time to come together, and these are holy convocations. So we already know that's about God, right? We're coming together in God's name. God told us to do it at certain times. Okay? Now we're going to jump down. Well, first of all, let's look at 3. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest. It's the 10th commandment, right? 4th commandment, in holy convocation ye shall do no work therein. So, the 7th day Sabbath. That's one way to be obedient to God. That's one way to accept that righteousness of God, or God's righteousness, or to be in line with God's righteousness. Let's look at verse 9 and 10. Now keep in mind, we're thinking about Thanksgiving here, right? Feast, harvest, thanks. And the Lord spake, this is Leviticus 23, verse 9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, harvest, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits. So you're giving off top. You're bringing something to the priest. You're giving something for an offering, right? And this first fruits, as you know, actually we'll get to that. Actually, let me just read. Speak unto the children of Israel, and saying to them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. All right. So, and we know, going back to the New Testament, that in this harvest feast right here, this feast of first fruits, this first fruit is reminding us of Christ, right? 1 Corinthians 15:23. This is a lesson on the fly, so I apologize for not having the scripts lined up. 1 Corinthians 15:23. But every man in his own order, Christ the firstfruits, afterward they that are Christ at his coming. Oh, so we got at his coming too. All right, so if we're looking at this harvest here, so verse 10 is about a harvest. It's about remembering Christ because we're talking about the first fruits, right? So if you think about Christ, think about a sacrifice. You're giving thanks for that, right? That's automatic. Very thankful for that because otherwise we're all destined for doom. You got a harvest feast. Okay, but let's look at the other harvest feast, and then we're going to look at what this harvest represents. Verse 33 in Leviticus 23. Yeah, we do this one. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be an holy convocation, and ye shall do no work. no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein. Now, when you get into what the Feast of Tabernacles is talking about, it's talking about the gathering, right? This is the final feast of the year. People are coming together, being gathered from all over the place, getting prepared to go into that 8th day, which represents the Father's kingdom. But you got this gathering together, right? And we had, with the Feast of First Fruits, we had the harvest, right? All right. So let's go look at Matthew 13. You can't go into this Bible and do this with Thanksgiving, just by the way, because God didn't give us Thanksgiving. And that's ultimately what this little thought is about. Thanksgiving is not from God. God gave us his harvest feast. Matthew 13. And his harvest feast is fruitful because it reminds us of the kingdom. It reminds us of his return. It reminds us that we have to be wheat and not tares. We have to be fruitful branches and not thorny branches. So Matthew 13, 24 through 30. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up, and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? So the field is the earth, right? Man. And God, throughout the centuries and years, has been trying to put seeds, been using people to put seeds in other people, just like trees drop seeds and create other trees. Same thing's been going on. God has been trying to get that kingdom seed in everybody, right? That seed of righteousness. But we got, he also has Satan out here, allowing Satan to do his work and take who he's going to take. So Satan's out here trying to make people thorny, trying to burn them up, trying to steal away the seed, like the parable of the sower, right? And so you got these tares coming up, and you got some wheat growing up, all in the same field. Some stuff that's useful and fruitful, and you got some stuff that's not fruitful and discardable, right? So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. So God has a time designated for his harvest to actually happen. That's why we're able to live out here with these murderers, thieves, and everybody else that doesn't want to keep the commandments and just refuses to keep the commandments. God is giving people time to develop. He's giving people time to show who it is they are. Letting the wicked be wicked, giving them a chance to repent, because God doesn't want anybody to perish. So he's letting things develop. He's letting us all grow up together, figure it out who we're going to be, determine who it is we're going to be through our thoughts and actions and words, through our words and actions. And that's what it is. But at some point in time, that comes to an end. But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in the bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn, his house of prayer, his temple. But that's only for the righteous. And so if you're living according to zeal, going about to establish your own righteousness, like we read, that ain't good. We have to accept God's righteousness. It's not even an option. Let me go back to something real quick. Let's see, I didn't get on my history this time. Let's see. Going back to Romans 10:2. 10:3. This is a piece, we have to submit ourselves to the righteousness of God. That is obedience. It's not about gratitude, it's about obedience. When you're obedient, you have something to be thankful for. That's righteous. If you're not obedient and you're still out, if you're disobedient and you're gracious, that's all good. That's the zeal, but it's not according to knowledge. Does that make sense? And some might try to read verse 4 and say, oh, with the law, Christ was the end of the law for righteousness. But you just saw that there's a piece of the law. And if you keep reading and studying, you'll understand which piece is still relevant and which piece is not. But the piece of the law we're talking about here is all about Christ. Those feast days, keeping those 10 commandments, the dietary laws, all of that points to Christ. All of that reminds you of his coming. All of that reminds you of being set apart and being sanctified and how you're supposed to act, staying on that narrow path. And that's what it's about. If you get off track, get back on. And that's what this is all about. Reminding you, stay on it. If you get off it, get back on it. Because you only got this life. And you only get one chance. Because you only got one life. You got one chance to get gathered up and entered into the kingdom, accepted into the kingdom, admitted into the kingdom. So be obedient, not gracious, not just gracious. Uh, Lord willing, you'll be blessed. In Jesus' name, peace.